The Smith Lecture is an event that has been organised in honour of the Reverend Bruce Smith, who died in 2001 of leukaemia at the age of 68. And Bruce was a theologian, a classicist, a teacher, a poet, a father, known to many of you here tonight, and in fact father to three of you here tonight. And we have the members of the Smith family with us, which is always a wonderful thing. Rob and Claire, Dave and Ange, and Andrew and Annette. So I can't see exactly where you are at the moment, but thank you so much for always coming and supporting this event. And we're delighted to always be putting it on in Bruce's honour. The idea, of course, is that we want to be able to talk about the issues that matter today and to bring someone who has expertise in that area to address the topic, and also to address it in all of its dimensions, including the spiritual dimension. And I'm sure that's what we'll be doing tonight. We will have that question time at the end, so please jot down your questions. I'm sure Bruce is used to people playing on their phones as he speaks. We don't want you to miss out on asking your questions. Well, let me introduce our speaker. Professor Bruce Robinson is a specialist lung physician and a leading cancer researcher based at the University of Western Australia, where he directs the National Centre of Research Excellence. He's written over 200 scientific papers and 50 book chapters and won numerous awards. He's been described as an icon of Australian science. As well as that professional work, he is also the founder of the award-winning Father Project, also based at the University of Western Australia, which has helped hundreds of thousands of fathers to become better dads and father figures in schools, in workplaces, in communities, and actually online, an important part of the work. And he's written 3 best-selling books on fathering and spoken in 7 countries to thousands of men on this topic. The Fathering Project focuses on health, education, substance abuse, crime, with the aim of being active in every school in Australia. And it's been described as a powerful force reducing the increasing risks our children face. In fact, I like the phrase that Steve Biddulph used to describe Bruce as the Fred Hollows of fathering in Australia. It's a great honour and a great phrase, yeah. His books have been recommended by people as diverse as Tim Costello, Dennis Lilly, Geraldine Doog, and former Prime Minister John Howard. And we're looking forward to him on that topic. But he's also seen suffering up close and done volunteer work in poor countries around the world, including compassionate medical care for victims of earthquakes, tsunamis and cyclones, as well as caring for the thousands of cancer patients and their families that come through his doors. In 2013, he received an Order of Australia and was named Western Australian of the Year. And as if that wasn't enough to complete the Renaissance man picture, he's been an all-Australian footballer, speaks 5 languages, and most importantly is married to Jacqueline, who's here tonight, and has 3 children. He's also a founding member of the Christian Leaders Forum in Western Australia, and we're delighted to have him as the 2016 Smith Lecturer. Bruce Robinson.
The topic is called The Thin Red Line, and I hope I can convince you that fathers and fathering and father figures are very important in today's society and not an optional extra. And in the process, I guess, explain why, with such a busy life, I'm doing this. Maybe I'll begin by something that happened to me, about 3 years ago. I was at a barbecue run at a tennis club for some dads, beers, barbecue. They interviewed me about fathering. And at the end, this great big bloke, my size, actually bigger than me, came up. He had a tradie shirt on. And he said to me, I'm actually going to do it exactly. G'day, Bruce. My name's Luke. Good talk, mate. Thanks, Luke. And then he stayed there and he said, actually, got to be honest, Bruce, I came a couple of years ago when you talked here and good talk then, so I thought I'd come again. So thanks, Luke. And he shuffled around a bit. Actually, Bruce, he said, to be honest, your talk 2 years ago changed my life. He said, well, I'll tell you at the end what he said. And I will warn you to say, when he told me, I got a tear in my eye, because it is such a powerful force, what we're going to talk about. Because one thing about dads is they love their kids. And mostly even bad dads love their kids. They just don't know what to do. First of all, they don't know how important they are, and they do not know what to do. And if their dad was a bad dad, how could they possibly know? So this was quite moving. And sometimes people get a bit of a wake-up call, but mostly people don't. And they get to middle age or the end of their life, and then they live with regrets. Sometimes you get an early wake-up call. This is a guy who was sitting on in row 1 of the plane that went into the Hudson River. And he was sitting in row 1, and the engines went clackety-clack and stopped, and there was a bang, and, you know, they were clearly going into the river. And he assumed, of course, that he was going to die, and this is what he said.
And then he says 3 words, as unemotional 3 words have I ever heard. He says, brace for impact. I didn't have to talk to the flight attendant anymore. I could see in her eyes, it was terror. Life was over. The third thing I learned, and this is as your mental clock starts going 15, 14, 13, you can see the water coming. I'm saying, please blow up. Right? I don't want this thing to break in 20 pieces like you've seen in those documentaries. And as we're coming down, I had a sense of, wow, dying is not scary. It's almost like we've been preparing for it our whole lives. But it was very sad. I didn't want to go. I love my life. And that sadness really framed in one thought, which is, I only wish for one thing. I only wish I could see my kids grow up. About a month later, I was in a performance by my daughter, first grader, not much artistic talent, yet. And I'm bawling, I'm crying like a little kid. And it made all the sense in the world to me. I realized at that point, by connecting those 2 dots, that the only thing that matters in my life is being a great dad. Above all, the only goal I have in life is to be a good dad. I was given the gift of a miracle of not dying that day. I was given another gift, which was to be able to see into the future and come back and live differently.
So the Fathering Project is pretty much about giving this gift to every dad. They don't have to actually crash into the Hudson River to get it. So let's just talk about kids of today, and this is a bunch of kids having a good time. And I don't know about you, but if you read the newspaper every single day, it's hard not to be concerned about children. Here's a question. Put your hand up if you have now or have had teenage children. Pretty worrying, isn't it? Schoolies. And we used to want to, when I got to the end of year 12 and they're going to go off and party, it's my wife Jackie sitting here, we used to think, gee, wouldn't it be nice if they just stayed home and played Scrabble with mum and dad? Because it's pretty scary out there, and you know that because you read the newspaper. But you can't have your kids in cotton wool. But in reality today, and life is different today than it was for kids my age, because there's what we call a thin red line between fun, good fun, and catastrophe. There is nowadays a thin red line between fun and catastrophe, and I say that as a doctor. Let me tell you what I mean. Here's your daughter, and she's had a lot to drink, and girls drink a lot nowadays, staggeringly drunk. 32% of 17-year-old girls binge drink. That's at least once a month. And normally they do try to look after each other, but she wakes up next to some guy and she's not quite sure, has any vague recollection of him. And she thinks might be pregnant, might have a sexually transmitted disease, wasn't planning on this. And let me say at the outset, the Fathering Project does not moralise on any of these things. The Fathering Project has a laser-like focus on only one thing: Kids need a good father figure, especially dad, and we try to give it to them. We don't moralise on any of this sort of stuff. But she will have a couple of big risks in addition. One of them is that she will feel shame, and the shame is because she didn't plan it to be that way. And the other is that, and here's a frightening risk, that she could be on social media the night before. Who knows what she was doing, and she can be on social media. And once it is on social media, it will never leave. Whatever that embarrassing photograph is. There's a thin red line between going out with the girls and having fun and catastrophe. And your son goes out with his mates, football mates, and there's an Aboriginal kid in the group, and someone badmouths the Aboriginal kid, so he's had a bit of alcohol, a little bit of ice, a bit juiced up, takes a swing, the other guy goes down, the other guy's drunk, cracks his head on the pavement, gets a skull fracture, contracture injury, and he dies, and your son's up for murder, one punch. And violence is just the way it is nowadays, with the thin red line between what is a bunch of guys having fun with the footy mates and catastrophe. And drugs, again, pick up the newspaper. Nowadays, the ice epidemic. Thin red line between having fun and becoming an addict or becoming hepatitis C positive. And I tell you, I know parents. I've had parents weeping as they tell me what it's like to be the parent of someone who's an addict. And depression and suicide. Again, pick up the paper, you'll read about this. Thin red line between fun and catastrophe. And I don't want to be depress you or anything, but if you think it's just kids having fun, hey, it's just kids having fun, you're wrong. It's just vastly more risky today. Vastly more risky for kids. So don't imagine it's just kids having good old fun. Just say that as a doctor. You're not doing your kids or your grandkids or whatever a favour if you take that view, because then you're giving the opposition a free hit, and they're pushing drugs and everything as hard as they possibly can. You're giving them a free hit. So just to remind you, I just actually picked up 3 front page articles from the West Australian. I'm sure it's the same here. 3 in a row, once every month for 3 months. And a recent statistic from the National Drug and Alcohol Centre, methamphetamine use in Australia tripled in 5 years. I'm just picking one. I don't want to go through a lot of statistics, but I want to just make a point. Dads are important in stopping this. So there's a feeling sometimes that dads are the icing on the cake, and they actually end up letting the side down if that's the case. So let's now talk about the statistics on this. I don't want to bore you again. I just want to show you the statistics. So we've reviewed 600, actually more than 600 papers, reviewed about 50-something books, interviewed 400 people for a total of 1 million interview words, and done a bunch of research projects. Anyway, I'm going to reduce it down to these numbers. So this girl, if she had a good dad, the father effect 50% reduction in her risk. Not 100%, 50%. Violence, crime, etc., 75%. It's actually close to 90%, but for the purposes of this, I've decided to pick the minimum possible statistic, to be fair. Drugs, about 50%, depression, about 35%. The point is that if every kid in Australia had a really fantastic dad or father figure, these things would be reduced by 50%. And it's a powerful statistic, especially when you consider the costs, $13 billion a year. Crime, law, police, the whole thing. We think this is kind of cute because the Fathering Project is the most powerful force to change this. 50% would be worth $13 billion. So we suggest to the government they give us just 1% of that. We would only have to, we could be 99% failures and just 1% successful, and we'd still be ahead. 1.5% successful. I think they think it's too good to be true. But we talk to any psychologist, social worker, youth worker, they all say this is exactly what their experience is. I've just picked drugs again. So we do our own research, and if you're thinking about your children or grandchildren and their risk of drugs, well, firstly, in our research, we've found that, of course, what has been found by others is true. That is, kids who have an absent dad is not around, can't be bothered, whatever, are at much higher risk. That is true, not surprising. But we found something else, which is also true and a little bit more scary, which is even when Dad is present, it's the attitude Dad takes to the kids that's more likely to drive them into drugs. Put-downs, criticism, lack of trust, lack of interest, being unsupportive. And I say that because sometimes dads say, oh, I'm not divorced, I'm at home, my kids are safe. They've got a dad. Not so. It's how you speak to them that determines the outcome. I'll mention more about that shortly. Now, I'd like you to listen to this girl and think through what risks she faces.
We don't talk very much, and I usually go to bed before he comes home.
Let's talk about a dad.
I don't remember him giving me any hugs or really much affection at all, really. Now, I don't really care anymore. I don't try, I don't study. If he doesn't care what mark I get, then what does that matter? I just want him to talk to me. And I just want him to tell me when I'm doing good and tell me when I'm doing wrong, and I just want him to tell me it's all gonna be okay when I don't feel good.
Dad's at home, he's not doing a good job. People on this side, name one risk you think this girl is facing.
Self-harm.
Self-harm. Who thought that? Massive risk of self-harm. Frightening. Another one from this side? Not reaching anything like her potential. It is a fact that fathers have a profound influence on a girl's sense of confidence and her ability to tackle things in life, or crushing her confidence. She looks to Dad. One more from this side? In what way do you think? Absolutely. This girl goes out, some guy gives her the eye and says he loves her and she's great, as guys do when they want to get into the girl's pants. Just to be honest about young guys, she's going to fall for it straight away. Commonest cause of promiscuity in teenage girls is them looking for the love their dad is not giving them. And one more from this side. Teenage pregnancy, same package, absolutely. Drugs. She's at a party, drugs are handed around. She's going to say, well, why not? Why not? So that's the problem. So how can fathers actually help kids to not cross this thin red line? Why are we so... No, what is it? I mean, it's all very well to talk about the problem, but what is the solution? Well, we have... So the Fathering Project talks to dads, and we like to keep it kind of simple. Please don't feel your intelligence is insulted by these little simple ways of remembering it. One is called the K2 effect. The other is called the bus strategy. Now, just so you remember this, there's K2, which quiz question for you, is a mountain in which country? Nepal, nope. Pakistan, very good. And it is the second, third or fourth highest mountain in the world. What a smart audience. Very good. Well, it's called the Climbers Mountain, and it's called the Savage Mountain because maybe 4% of climbers die on Mount Everest. Mountaineers don't really care about Mount Everest. It's a tourist mountain, but K2 they want to climb because it is the Savage Mountain. It's the mountain they all want to climb. And I could say with confidence that no London bus has ever been up there, but This image is for you to remember tomorrow. When you say, what did that guy from Perth say? K2 and bus. Here we go. First of all, the K2 effect. Here we are up in K2, and right at the very top is this very dangerous part. Actually, you can just see it up there, this ice overhang up here. And I'll introduce you to some of the people who are up there. This is the guy in the blue, is Peter Hillary, the son of Sir Edmund Hillary, who's sitting next to him. Sir Edmund Hillary, of course, first man up Mount Everest. And Peter had already been up Mount Everest twice. And he's on K2 exactly at that point. And he's climbing with a bunch of people, and this is Alison Hargraves, a British climber with her 2 kids. She's just above him, and she calls down to him, "Take the red rope, Peter." His New Zealand climbing partner gets to him and says, "Let's go, come on." He says, "Oh, a bit cloudy, not sure about the weather." And his mate keeps going. Peter dithers. He's not happy about the weather. Just got a hunch. But he thinks, oh, the summit's just up there. Peer pressure to get up there, take the red rope. His mate's gone up. And here is the moment. Because he'd done a lot of climbing with his dad, and he said, the voice of his father came to him and said, "Peter, make your own mind up. Always make your own mind up on the mountain." Looked up, looked down, decided to retreat off the mountain. Went down, clouds came, storm, got into his tent, woke up next morning bright and sunny. Now you can imagine the feeling as 8 people taking their lovely photos on K2, and he's piked out, he's in his tent. Every single one of those 8 people above him died in that storm. Every single one, including Alison. The voice of his father stopped him crossing, if you like, the thin red line and saved his life. It's what we call the K2 effect. There's a storm. And of course, for Peter to have got this voice, his dad had to be present in his life and talking to him. You cannot generate a voice in a kid's head from the distance. So there's fun and catastrophe, and dads can be the voice in their heads, saying to kids, you're capable, you're special, so make your own mind up. You know, drugs are being handed around. You know what? Make your own mind up. K2 effect. Now, ladies, I do have to address you for a moment because I don't really want you to be offended, but you might say, why dads? Well, if I could just honour the ladies here for the moment. And I don't mean to offend the dads, but ladies typically do a good job of mothering. Working ladies, sole parent ladies, sole parent mums, depressed mums, disabled mums, do a pretty good job of mothering. It's dads that are much more variable, which is why we focus on dads. So here's mum. She's got another bun in the oven there. There's dad on his mobile phone. There's little Johnny, or it could be little Susie, but the radar is out for what dad thinks. It's just the way it is. And maybe, someone asked me this recently, if someone is, like if dad's at home and the mum's working, would there be a role reversal? Well, I'm sure there would be, but there is something a bit biological about this. Kids have their radar out for what dad thinks. If it's a daughter, am I beautiful? Am I capable? How should I be treated by men? They sort of expect mum. I mean, this is what they think. Mum had me like 9 months in the oven, and then maybe some breastfeeding, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And she seems to really love me, and she fusses over me, and she wants to nurture me, and I eat my vegetables, and careful when I go on the street, and do my homework, and change your knickers, and all that sort of stuff. And she's just, like, I think she's stuck with me. But Dad is much more what we call optional. It's the theory of optionality. Dad is more optional. That's why the radar's out for Dad. There's plenty of statistics on this. So let's talk now about the bus strategy. Bus is our reduction of 600 papers, 50 books, 400 hours of interviewing, 1 million words, and a bunch of research into 3 letters. Not wanting to insult your intelligence again, but it's just how people remember things. BUS stands for the 3 things that kids really need from their dads. Actually, they need it from their mums too, but 3 things in particular. Let me tell you what they are. First is being there. It's mostly about time and being there for kids. I'm not going to talk about it today, don't have time. Fathering Project talks a lot about how to work around a busy schedule. U is unconditional love. For them to know they are loved unconditionally. And S is to feel special. Let me just talk about you for the moment. In a very competitive academic world, unconditional love is pretty hard. So here we are in Sydney in the CBD, and I bet you know people who've bragged about their kids' exam results. And I told someone this the other day, but actually today, but I'll tell you. One of the things the Fathering Project has done is made an outstanding archaeological discovery. This is the discovery, that there actually were 11 commandments. Now, this is what happened. Moses came down with 10, right? 5 on each tablet, and told people, don't kill people and all that sort of stuff. They said, pretty hard, Moses, but yeah, good, fine. And they sort of started to wander off. Moses heard a voice from the clouds, and God says, mate, you forgot one. Not sure why God would have an Australian accent, but anyway, apparently. How are the clouds? Mate, you forgot one. And he said, he's getting old by now, and he's got to go up the clouds. Yeah, pretty cloudy up there, so it's kind of hard to get it all right. Anyway, came down with number 11. By the time he got down there, everyone had dispersed, so that's why it's not well known. This is what number 11 says. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's children's exam results. I don't know, I teach medical students, and there is no doubt that parents use their kids' exam results as their own bragging rights. And another one is sport. When someone wins an Olympic gold medal, I want to thank Mum and Dad, because every morning they got up at 5 o'clock and drove me 50 miles to the pool. And I always think about, what about your brothers and sisters who are sitting at home having breakfast by themselves? There is a lot of bragging rights. Children are never your bragging rights. Looks. One daughter's pretty, the other one isn't. Personality, one's sweet, nice, well-behaved. The other one is totally difficult, obstructionist, will not be told what to do, and misbehave. You're always up at the deputy principal's office. He or she's done it again. And beliefs. You might have a particular political belief. I think about this nowadays with the Republicans in the United States. How shall I say this? Don't exactly, thank you. I refuse to say anything. But, religious beliefs. So you might be have a particularly strong religious belief, and maybe one of your kids says, that's just not for me, and they go the other way, and it's easy for that child to think that you would love them if they just believed what you believe. The child who's not as smart at school who thinks, as you try to help them, that you would love them if they just performed. The gold medal, the great swimmer, the one who's not so good. Dad would love me more if I was as good as my brother. In other words, Dad's love is conditional on my performance. Personally, I think unconditional love is an extremely hard thing to deliver in today's society. So you've got 2 kids. Here's a daughter. She's attractive, and she actually happens to be the best student in the class and the captain of netball, the prefect, well-behaved, everyone's favourite girl. Here's a sister who will misbehave, of course, to test whether you really love her or not. Unconditional, if you can make her realise that your love does not depend on her performance at all, you will have succeeded in this very difficult task. Not only that, but the first girl, if you can make her understand that your love does not depend on her excellent performance either, because let's face it, it's going to fade, you will also have done a good job. But unconditional love is very hard to deliver. A simple way to think about this is to think about how you say, I love you. So this girl, she goes out with her friends and she's only 16, but she comes back, she's drunk. She's now late. And you're beside yourself, you're thinking about her in the gutter, emergency department. She comes home and you say, how could you do this? Because I, emphasising I, love you. How could you have done this to me? How could you have done this to your mum? Don't you know how much we love you? You've really hurt us. It's all about you, right? I love you. Or you can say I love you by I love you. Feel my emotion. Feel my emotion, the gushy emotion. I love you. Love's going to solve all the problems. And that's better than the first one, but the problem with it is that if you die, that love's gone. It's all about you and how much you love them. But the third way is to say, I love you. You are lovable. There are reasons why I love you, because you're just wonderful. Now you die, they're still lovable and wonderful, and they realise, actually, that they're special. 3 ways to say I love you, and it leads on to the S, the third S of bus. And that's helping kids realise how special they are. Quiz question, what is this building? Taj Mahal. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say you're really bright because that was an obvious one. Okay, you've already convinced me, you're a very bright audience, so you're not that special, you know. Next question, another special building. What's that? Very good. How do you know it wasn't a trick question? Because there is no other building that looks like it. That's the point. These are 2 unique buildings, very special. They do not have to out-special each other. Those 2 girls, or might be 2 boys, are special in their own right. They don't have to out-special each other. To help a kid realise just how special and unique they are, with a special future. I mean, kids don't feel all that special. They feel like coming out of a sausage machine. And, okay, mums, it's your job as well, but we're just talking about dads today. Help kids understand that they are special and unique. May not be captain of netball or football, they may not be ducks of school, whatever. To do that, you have to identify that which makes them special. And they'll spot a fake. Hey, you're so awesome. You're so awesome. You know, I don't know why I ever say that in an American accent either. You're so awesome. I'm not saying Americans use empty phrases. They don't. Absolutely not saying that. But, you know, if you just keep saying you're so special and you're so awesome, honestly, you've got to say why. You know what? I've seen the way you did this. I've seen the way you did that. You're so gifted. You're so, you know, creative. You're so kind. You're so whatever, whatever, whatever. Now, I reckon it's easy to actually say, oh, yeah, Bruce, sure. Sure, make every kid feel special. But I need for you to understand this feeling. So I want you to think now, while you're sitting there, about when you were a kid, who made you feel special? And I want to think just about males. Who made you feel special as a kid? I'm going to give you some categories to think through this. School teacher, maybe. Someone outside the family, like school teacher, sports coach, maybe youth worker, pastor, priest, something like that. Now, inside the family, maybe a grandfather, or an uncle, or your own dad. Who actually made you feel special, right? Now you don't have to do this, but if you're willing to do that, I want to do a survey of the audience and I want you to put your hand up. Who had a school teacher who made them feel special? Just hands up. Okay, what was the next one? Sports coach. Who had a sports coach who made them feel special? 2, 3, 4. Youth worker, pastor, priest, something like that, community worker. Half a dozen. Okay, grandfather. Uncle. your dad. Do you not think it's interesting that for most categories, not many people put their hand, well, people in the front can't see it, but from the back? I mean, I think it's interesting that people can't all name a school teacher. But that's not a criticism of school teachers. They're fantastic, do a busy job, but it's just interesting. Doesn't spring to mind. So I can think I would put my hand up for a school teacher, an uncle, and my dad. But not, and I played a lot of football, not one single sports coach, footy coach ever did it. Like, I wasn't such a special footballer either, but I'm talking about as a person. Well, actually, for the men here, I'd like you to put your hand up if you have nephews and nieces. Oh, just about everyone, right. Okay, so here's the point. Hardly anyone, maybe 3 people put their hands up to say an uncle made them feel special. But imagine those nephews and nieces of yours are in this room in 20 years' time, and some person stands up and says to them, who had an uncle who made them feel special? So I want you to think now about what you need to do so that they shoot their hand up and think of you. These are very difficult things to do. That's why you've only had a few of you put your hands up. So, specialness isn't just about words, but it's actions. And in some ways, I think actions are more powerful. And Fathering Project has lots of tips. That's what we do. We tell dads they're important and we give them a bunch of tips that work. Just going to give you one. This is our top tip out of our 10 top tips. This is dad dates. Well, it's what we call one-on-one times, or we have this thing called no-a-knock at the top there. No-a-knock is not an Aboriginal word for anything. It stands for no other adults, no other kids. Point is, it's not you and your partner taking a child out. And it's definitely not you and your mate both of you taking your sons out. Because the blokes will talk to each other and the kids will. And if you've got a bunch of kids, it's not you, just dad, taking out all 5 kids at once. I'm sorry if you have 5 kids, because we are talking about 5 separate dad dates. Anyone here got 5 kids? Matter of interest? Oh, you do. I know, Greg, you do. Someone else? Well, we now got granddaughters, so, we've sort of up to 5, extended family, granddad dates. Anyway, another story. To start those. But the point is, it has to be one-on-one. Another good one is camping together. And here's another good one, one-on-one trips. Just dad, just one. Actually, I've got to tell you a true confession here. And I don't actually want to pretend that I knew all this at the start. I'll tell you two true confessions. One is, with my oldest son, when he was about 9, I thought going on a one-on-one trip was good, but I got held up at Heathrow, I was tired, I was jet-lagged, and I decided there's no way I can have a 9-year-old in tow. Couldn't happen, so I came home and said to my wife, Jackie, you know what, I think I'm going to bail on that trip that I was going to just, blah, blah, blah. I said, sorry, you can't. Why not? You told him. So I girded my loins and took him with me for a month. We went to a conference at America, Disneyland, and saw his grandparents in England. It was fantastic. And he remembers every moment of that trip, even now. I did it because I thought I should. I did not have the wisdom and knowledge to realise how powerful it would be, not just for him, but for me. So, true confession, I didn't get it. I do now. Another true confession, I thought, you go out with your kids, you can talk to them, man to man, whatever, bonding time. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Fathering Project has worked out why this one-on-one time works. Because the kid looks at you and says, you know what? My dad's busy. He can do anything he likes. But he chooses to spend time with me. I must be worth spending time with. That feeling of worth and specialness is the best protection against, for example, taking drugs. When the drugs are handed out at the party and they're 15, that girl is going to say, you know what, I may as well. I am worthless. But you make your kids feel worthwhile, it's like It's not 100% certain, but they're going to say, you know what? I don't need this. I'm going to pass. I feel okay already about myself. This is our best tip. And I am giving it to you. It has worked a treat. It's like a magic wand. Every time someone's done it, it's worked a treat. So here's Scott as a student who, when he's 15, talked about a trip he did with his dad when he was 10. And listen to the wisdom of this, because kids know. You talk to the other kids at school, and the majority have never been anywhere or done anything special with their dads. But it's not like their dads don't love them. Brings me back to my first point. Dads love their kids. The way to a dad's heart's through his kids. They just don't know what to do. And Scott realised that dads love the kids, they just don't do the magic things. And he said, it's just that dad makes an effort, and that makes me feel, what do you reckon the next word is? I take it all back. You are a very smart group. I'm fluctuating, but I'm back on the clever group now. Special. Makes me feel special, that I really mean something to him, and deep down that I really mean something in general. Our best tip. I will tell you about actually something that happened right here in Darling Harbour. I went to a conference. Guy was waiting for me, came up and said to me, oh, it's amazing, like 50 metres away, no, 100, whatever the conference centre is. He said, Bruce, I've been waiting for you. Me and my 14-year-old daughter weren't getting on, but I read the chapter in your book about one-on-one trips. I was going to Paris, 5 days. I invited her with me. I'm thinking, I wonder what she thought. Got to go with Dad, you know. Anyway, Paris obviously got her over the line. Emphasis, doesn't have to be Paris. I'm just going to go back. That's why I got a ute there, doesn't have anywhere. He said, I overheard her the other day talking to someone about her 2-week trip with Dad. I don't know whether the person thought it'd be torture or not. She said, I overheard her say they were the best 2 weeks of her life. He said, now we're like this. And then he said something, never forgotten. He said, you know what, Bruce? Best 2 weeks of my life as well. It's magic. We have lots of these tips. Okay. Fathering project, we make resources, we have lots of things on lots of topics, videos and projects. We go out to the schools, we're going to hopefully be in every school in the country running a champion dads group within 5 years. Talk to lots of people, we do lots of research. Here's a big camp out, Champion Dads Domain Stadium. For those who don't know, it's the Subiaco Oval, it's where the AFL teams, that's another football code if I can just explain that. Oh, sorry. Sorry, you do have a Sydney team? They did. Oh, you have 2 Sydney teams. Did they win this year? Oh, no, sorry. Anyway, these dads and their kids came out to Subiaco Oval and camped out on the Oval, hundreds of them. There's these tents on the Oval, and all those inside those tents are all these dads and their little kids, primary age kids, having a camp out. It brought a tear to my eye. Now we're back to Luke, and I promised to tell you this. He still shuffled around, and he said to me, he used to get home, go to his office, kids would be watching TV. Now when he comes home, plays with the kids, he says, when they hear the car, they run out through the front door and throw their arms around me. He said, mate, only 2 people have made a difference in my life, my year 10 teacher and you. Then he started to cry. He just wanted to tell me. I started to cry too. But I started to cry because I knew the stats. His kids before and after, big risk, low risk, simple as that. And just from one fathering project event. K2 voice, bus, and remember the picture. Going to finish with 2 what I would call frequently asked questions. I think there's a SMS type question, but I'm going to jump in with 2 of them. 2 frequently asked questions. One is, why does a busy doctor scientist do all this fathering stuff? Well, maybe it's the first video. I'm a doctor, I treat lung cancer patients, mesothelioma. Basically, I have to tell men they're going to die. And how many times can you talk to dying men who live with regrets? Have a guess what a dying man's number 1 regret is? Wish they'd spent more time with their kids. So, being a doctor, you don't just want to make a diagnosis, you want to fix things. Maybe not. Maybe it's not that. But I thought, I feel so sad for these guys. And wouldn't it be great if young dads had something so they didn't sit in my office crying because they wished they'd spent more. Why didn't someone tell them when they were young? So I set up the Fathering Project. And so I just mentioned my Christian faith here because, to be honest, true confessions again, I'm a pretty driven person and a bit on the, not necessarily selfish, maybe I am, but self-absorbed, whatever I'm doing. And I honestly think I could not do this. I mean, I'd feel sorry for these dads, but like every other doctor, I'd probably just carry on. And I am pretty sure, and this is just a personal reflection, right, that it is the softness in my heart that God has given me that has made me do all this huge thing. So it's no different really to me going up to Aceh when the tsunami hit. It's just an act of kindness. Running a soup kitchen, it's an act of compassion to make the world a better place. That's all. And I'm being honest by saying that. And the second thing is, and Greg, thanks for your kind introduction, but I get asked this, why are you still a Christian? Because you're at the coalface of science and you're at the coalface of suffering. Tsunami, people dying, you talk to them, you see it in the raw. And these are supposed to be the knockdown arguments against faith. So I haven't talked about them today, and I'll be happy to come back at another time and talk about them, why I don't think these are knockdown arguments against Christianity. Certainly, obviously, are not for me. But there's another question, which is, this is the Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss thing. Religion is bad for society. And religion for kids is child abuse. So I don't think that. I'm just going to finish with one reason, an example, I guess, why I don't think this is the case. I really don't think it's the case. So why am I still a Christian? Because I'm a bit mad. This is the phrase I use. BIT stands for because it's true, and that's the science side of things. I'm not talking about that, but MAD stands for because it makes a difference. Christianity makes a difference in life. It makes a difference in marriage, it makes a difference in friendship, and it makes a difference in parenting. I don't say it that often, but it is obvious when you're doing all this research, the difference it makes. Now, I've got to say, here's my son Simon, and he's always given me permission to talk about him. I won't talk too much about him, but he was definitely a black sheep. As my wife will attest. And a darling guy. And he right now is Mr. Citizen. He's a great bloke. So I've learnt this on the run in a lot of ways. And again, I don't think I'm actually very patient and all the things that a good dad would be. So I do believe, though, that faith can transform fathers. So just to pick the bus, for example. We talked about unconditional love and making kids feel special. So I'm just showing some wisdom 2,000 years ago that is actually supporting all of modern psychology. And it comes out of the Bible, and Jesus told a story about a guy. Here's his batch of money. 2 sons, gave half of it away. One of his sons wanted half his inheritance, and he ran off. And I know what your inheritance to your kids would be, but pretty scary. Give half of it away. So I don't know what he thought, whether his son would start a farm, or dental practice, or, liquor outlet or something, I don't know. Anyway, his son partied, and wine, women and song, spent it all, had no money, decided to go back to his dad, but realised that he spent half his dad's money, so it's called the story of the prodigal son, if you know that. But anyway, said, I'll go and work in the pigsty for you, Dad, earn my way back in. Now, if it was me, and he came back, this would have been me. Mate, you got to face the consequences of your choices, son. I think the idea of working and paying back all this money is a good idea, and maybe in 10 years' time you can have paid it off and, we'll be back, face the consequences. That would have been me. And that is a natural kind of thing. This is what the Bible says. While his son was still a long way off, the father saw him and was filled with rage at him, and ran to his son and threw a baseball bat at him and belted him. The son started his speech. His father was filled with compassion, ran to him and threw his arms around him. So he starts his speech. That's what his dad says. So just feel how profound this is. Imagine if it was your child. Anyway, he has a party for him. What's the one day when you feel special? Is when they have a party for you and just nothing, unconditional love. It's all there. I think Christianity makes a difference in parenting. It's as simple as that. It makes a difference. It makes a difference in marriage. It's another reason why I'm still a Christian. It's a good idea. It's great if you can do this, without faith and everything, because lots of people are better dads than I am. But Christianity never claims to make you better than anyone else. It just claims to help you be better than you would otherwise be. If you start back on the grid, like a lot of people, it just makes a difference. And it's transforming, So I'm still a Christian because I think those two things are profoundly influential in my life as a dad, and I thought I should tell you that. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining in.